the word that kept coming up when we were showing it to people was, wow, that's elegant.
Yeah.
And that's how you know you can put the pencil down. When somebody says it's elegant, you've probably refined it enough.
Hey, y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. For the first time in quite a while, I am very, very privileged to have Lance King, CEO of Cyberlandr, with me again. And we are going to talk about some Cyberlandr treats for you all. We're going to talk a little bit more about the software than we usually do. We're going to talk about Peter Thiel's book 0 to 1 and how that's amazing. But first, we're going to go with your prop, which is the Cybertruck. So you're going to show us where the Cyberlandr goes and what it is for people who might not know.
Cyberlandr goes here. So if you're looking for a way to convert your Cybertruck into a recreational vehicle that fits in a single parking space, can park inside your garage instead of outside, can go through the mall parking garage, or even traverse a drive-through when you're ready for some Starbucks or some food, Cyberlandr is the one for you.
It's pretty amazing. And since the last time we talked, both of us are proud new owners. You've got the Beast version, I've got the two-motor version, but proud new owners of Cybertruck. So maybe we could talk about that first.
Yeah, I'm amazed that I already have across the two we have, because as you recall, one of our customers loaned us one before we even got ours. Across the two, I've now got more than 9,000 miles on them in just a short month. So I've been putting a lot of miles on, really getting to know the Cybertruck, putting it through its paces, and it's amazing. If you have not driven one, you owe it to yourself to drive one. I've waited 30 years to have somebody get four-wheel steering correct, and they did it. They nailed it first time out the door. The kind of funny steering wheel is awesome. Would you agree? Do you like the steering wheel?
Absolutely. The only thing that's really weird is when I leave my house every morning, what I do is I put the seatbelt on as I'm driving down the road, which I know I shouldn't do. And all the time before, I've just shoved my knee into the steering wheel because there's like a curve, and I put the seatbelt on. So this is actually encouraging my better habits so that I put the seatbelt on before I leave the driveway. So
that is good. You know, I've had cars that would not start beeping at you until you hit 10 miles an hour.
Right.
So you could maneuver around a parking lot or something and it wouldn't be beeping at you. It'd be nice if Tesla did that. Yeah, the steering wheel is very comfortable, lots of good positions to hold it. And Sunday here, it was finally cold enough that I hopped in the Cybertruck early and took off, and realized as I was driving down the road, wait a minute, it turned on the steering wheel heater for me.
It's nice, right?
Yeah.
And the seat heat and the cooling for Georgia and Texas in the summertime. Yeah, that's a big one.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But even more so, I think, you know, the driving experience is amazing. The four-wheel steering, the steer-by-wire, the fact that you only have to turn the steering wheel like about 180 degrees each direction, less than that. Yeah. It's incredible.
Hand over hand for 3 turns. You know, after you get used to that, then you go on a trip and you rent a car. You almost feel like you're having a seizure when you have to go like this to go around a corner, you know. It's like, wow, why do cars work like that?
That's very, very true. Yeah, I've been renting cars, actually, even our Model Y, which is a lovely car. It's just, it feels ridiculous to have to do this all the time to like turn the car. So yeah, that's a big one. But I think let's talk about the back of the truck, which is something that for many people who even own them, maybe you do truck stuff once in a while, but most of the time you got a 6-foot bed by, what is it, 4 feet wide? Is that about right?
So it's about 51 inches between the angled fender sides, a little wider at the top because it's not perfectly vertical. Yeah.
Right. But anyway, within that little space, you have a house, a little tiny house.
We found a way to fit kitchen, living room, bedroom, bathroom, and office all in that space. And it's pretty magical that it all fits and works as well as it does, and actually feels bigger than you would imagine. In fact, I had one couple, I may have told you this before, that called and said, you know, we've got a conversion van, right? One of these $170,000 to $200,000 converted vans. And they said, we've been working out of that for a couple of years now, and we're so excited to give that up and get a Cyberlandr. And I said, okay, explain that to me. And they said, well, if you've ever driven one of those vans, and I have, he said, you know how bad they are.
Right.
They rattle, they shake, they have no power, they're noisy, and they're just all around pretty awful as a car, right? Because they're meant to deliver products is all.
Yeah.
And so they don't really go off-road very well and that type of thing. And he said, we actually think Cyberlandr is going to feel bigger because as we think about how we move around and stuff like that, we're always climbing over the top of each other in that van.
Right.
And with the sink up out of the way, so somebody else can access the fridge or the bathroom or the other chair. They said, we won't be stumbling over the top of each other like we normally do. He said, we only have one concern. And I said, what's that? He said, well, once in a while, we have to get on Zoom calls for work at the same time, and we work at different places, and we're worried that being that close to each other, we'll be talking over each other because, we have that problem a little bit even in the van when one of us is at the front and one's at the back. And I said, oh, you've forgotten. I said, what did I forget? I said, you've forgotten you've got the whole cab of the Cybertruck,
exactly.
so you both get your own private offices now with your own climate control, your own music, whatever you want, place to spread out and everything. He said, that's amazing. I'd forgotten all about that. And so if you think about the ways you can use it, it's actually pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So
and of course, so we have to be forthright here. We've talked about this a lot the last couple of months, and we're going to get to that in just a second. Why we've been talking so much, but there are a lot of patents that are under review right now and things like that. And of course, you all want to wait. There's really big surprises. I've seen them. It's amazing. But we're going to talk more about the software today rather than the hardware because of the nature of those patents and everything, and the fact that we need to delay. Within the next couple of months, definitely subscribe because you will see it here first. You will find out about it. We will have much more information about the hardware. Trust me, I've seen the way it's put together, the way it moves, all of that kind of stuff is pretty genius. So, and even how it looks on the truck, which is also very cool. So anyway, that's coming. Sorry, folks. We can throw up a nice 3D render. We can throw up a nice 3D render of the previous version, but it's iterated.
Yeah, we really wish we could show it all now. It's driving us crazy as much as it is the customers, but we've got to get those provisional patents in place so we don't lose that protection.
Right.
And but I think people will be pleased. I think there have been lots of improvements all around, which you've seen many of those, and I think they'll like it. But yeah, let's talk software a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk software. So I think maybe what we can start with, because we talked about this too, is we can start with Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1. Great book, by the way. If you haven't read it, I guess I can drop a link to that, an Amazon link in the description in case you want to read it. It's not that long, very quick read. Yeah, so why don't you say, what is 0 to 1 and why is Cyberlandr such a 0 to 1 product?
Okay, so what Peter describes is that, most things are just going from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or 100 to 101. And those are incremental improvements, and they're pretty easy to do because you've done whatever got you to there.
I'll take my Buc-ee's mug as an example.
There you go.
People have made lots of mugs before. After you've made one mug, making different mugs, not such a big deal. It's
not such a big deal. Putting a different color, a different logo or something on it, not a big deal.
Yeah.
But getting to that first mug, that took some real effort,
Yeah.
And so the same is true of products. So that's what he was talking about, that true innovation is going from 0 to 1. Right. And where from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 is an increment of 1, going from 0 to 1 is not 1. There may be 1,000 iterations and challenges and problems before you get from 0 to 1, right? So funny story, after we launched Cyberlandr, I had a friend call that I hadn't talked to in quite some time. And as soon as I answered and I said hello, he said, congratulations, you have gone from 0 to 1. And he said, almost nobody ever gets to do that. And I said, well, not really. I've gone from 0 to 0.1 or maybe 0.2. We've still got the other 8/10 to go to get to 1, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of twists and turns. And in the case of Cybertruck, it was a moving target, right? Mm-hmm. Because the final design, it was close, but not exact. And the final size was the real issue. Yeah. And so we didn't really get that information until late March, and didn't have our own Cybertruck to work on until June. Right. And so that's most of the delays. But, you don't think it's a big deal if they shorten the bed 5 or 6 inches, make it 5 or 6 inches narrower. Right. And we could have just done the original design and just made it smaller. But we didn't want it to be smaller. We wanted it to actually get bigger as the Cybertruck shrank. And so we put in the effort. We came up with a new design. Everybody liked it better. Even Sandy Monroe said, well, I like this even better than the first one. It's going to be simpler, better to manufacture.
By the way, got to represent for Sandy
Yes, there
Monroe
you go.
and the Cybertruck, of course.
Sandy's Monroe event, and he's certainly loved his
yeah.
Cybertruck as well. We wanted it to get even bigger and better, and so we put the effort in. And then just a few months ago, I've been thinking about it, and I thought, boy, I think we might be able to make it even better. And I came up with a way to do the actuation even better than it was before. And I said, I don't really want to slow things down. But I showed it to my engineers and said, what do you think? They said, no, we have to implement this. This is fast up. And I said, yeah, but the customers are waiting. And I said, let me talk to the advisory board. So I talked to the advisory board. The advisory board all said, nope, you got to implement this. This is good. Make this change. Do it now. So then I talked to some of our customers, and all but one.
And me.
Including you. And all but one of them said, yeah, take the few months now, do it right. We all want that. And I said, but it doesn't really affect you. It's just how it goes up and down. They said, we don't care. It's elegant. It's well done. We want it. So that's what we're doing. And of course, that meant yet another patent.
Right. Yeah.
Which I'm sure my patent attorney loves that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think people will like it. It made the actuation system, what makes it deploy and store, virtually disappear. It's taking up less space. It's simpler. There's less maintenance. The word that kept coming up when we were showing it to people was, wow, that's elegant.
Yeah.
And that's how you know you can put the pencil down. When somebody says it's elegant, you've properly refined it enough. And so that means we won't have to do a major improvement or switch over to manufacturing, a year down the road or something. Everybody can get the more refined one. And that, of course, was our promise from the beginning, that we would not squander the delay that Tesla had to get the Cybertruck right. Yeah. We would use it to keep improving things. And I think people will be pleased. We've made some significant improvements.
Yeah. And let's consider that, Tesla announced the Cybertruck a little over 5 years ago in November of 2019. And, it took them a couple of years to get it. So you wait for when you release it, as long as it is as good as you promised, it's fine. Yeah. In fact, actually, the Cybertruck was better than they promised. And it looks like, I know the Cyberlandr is going to be better than you promised. Yeah. So, because I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not easy. It wasn't easy for them. It hasn't been easy for us. They could have just used all traditional technology and made it the old way and just made it look funky, but that was not their goal. Their goal was to set a new standard, and they've done that. And of course, that's what we're trying to do too.
Yep. So anyway, people are going to love this thing. I want to talk, since we can't talk about hardware specifically yet, and again, hopefully just a couple of months from now, let's talk about software, because one of the really amazing things about the Cyberlandr, and it comes from your company, Stream It, the parent company, is that this, I don't know, traditional campers are lumps of materials that don't really do anything and they rattle around and stuff. This is a software-defined entity. This luxury, what do you call it? A lifestyle utility vehicle?
Lifestyle utility vehicle.
There we go.
LUV. So our view is that over the last 30 years, almost everybody has switched from sedans to SUVs because they go more places and they do more things. And for those same reasons, we think they're going to switch from SUVs to LUVs, lifestyle utility vehicles, because as we move into the future, you're either going to do a robo-taxi if you just need to get from point A to point B, because that's going to be the least expensive way to do it. But if you want a car or a vehicle of some kind, you're going to want it to support your lifestyle, whether you're a mountain biker, a surfer, traveling salesperson, a soccer mom. You want something that will support.
Or heck, just if you work remotely and you want to go to in Yosemite National Park and have your daily meeting, that's cool. That's a pretty cool possibility.
Yeah, I mean that's a very nice lifestyle to have, right?
Yeah.
And so you're going to want a vehicle that supports that. And so if you're the mountain biker or the surfer, you can shower after your activity. If you're the soccer mom, you got a place to get the kids out of the sun, have a nice lunch between matches, kind of thing. And if you're working remotely, take that Starlink, have a good connection, do all of your work. And as soon as that's done, you can be out fishing or whatever else you like to do.
Yeah.
So I think that will really change things. And
I want to pause on that for just a second, because I actually, that just right this second, I realized that. I was like, oh, that's what the future is going to look like. Get
Yeah.
rid of the sedan, get rid of the SUV. That'll get all in town kind of stuff will be taken care of by a robo taxi, an autonomous vehicle. And then the car that you do want is the one that enables you to do things that you can't do with just an autonomous vehicle. And that's the exact reason why a Cybertruck plus a Cyberlandr is like genius. It's such a good solution.
Yeah, and we've kind of ignored this in the past because when we went off road, we had this stinking gas or diesel vehicle, right? That's not real good for the environment. We're going out to enjoy nature while we're kind of harming it, right? And now for the first time, you can enjoy nature while treading more lightly upon it. And those of us who have taken these electric vehicles off road have noticed the wildlife don't run away. They're so much quieter, and it's not an offensive noise to wildlife, so they stick around and watch you go by.
That even happens in my neighborhood. They like the deer on the side of the road that are eating the grass and stuff. They're just like, oh, hey, and a gas car comes by and they all spook and scatter. So that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. Okay. So back to what you were saying, we've entered a software-defined world, right? And cars are becoming almost totally software-defined. RVs are lagging that a little bit. In our case, the software will very much be defining that experience, from the app that lets you deploy or store it, to check the energy levels, to control various things like lighting, which you can also do by voice. So software is playing a much bigger part in this in the future. And of course, that was our strength before we started this, particularly in AI and things like video analytics. And so, as you know, we've got expertise in things like this little tiny camera. Right. So these are the types of cameras that, Tesla uses in their cars and other cars have as well. And we've been working with those for many years. So that technology side is part of our DNA, and it has not been the DNA of the earlier RV manufacturers. Right.
Probably couldn't be further away from being part of the DNA.
Probably not. I mean, even within the industry, they joke about their own products as being made of sticks and tin. Right. And that's not a good thing. So no sticks or tin in Cyberlandr.
Yep. And of course, you also mentioned audio as well, and so that's something that we both are we have a lot of experience with lately. But that we can that having that audio interface, having a conversational agent that is the vehicle, will be a huge step forward to just be able to talk to your Cyberlandr.
Yeah. So and I think people will be impressed. You've been embedded with our AI team, so you've seen what's going on. You assess where we're at. Are we lagging? Are we pretty much up to date? Are we the cutting edge?
I think we're a little beyond cutting edge at this point. Your partner, Bill French, who is CTO of the company, is that correct?
He's Chief Analytics Officer or Chief Data Officer.
Yeah. And having worked with him for quite a while now, for several months, I that's a good title. that is
brilliant guy.
That is who he is. He is a brilliant guy and knocks his stuff out. And of course, my co-founder at Automatic, Ben Flanders, is also just doing a bang up job. So anyway, I can't talk about this either right now. This sucks. This is like the video where we can't talk about anything, but we'll talk about it soon because it's going to be public. But anyway, we have had a lot of time to sit and talk about both audio and video based AI and language based, of course, obviously the standard text based stuff. But it really is changing the way that I think we're going to think about products. I think we're just at the front end of that. There were some sort of failed attempts like the Humane Pin and things like that were kind of trying, but I recently purchased the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, and I'm going to do a review videos on those. Maybe the review will come out before this video. I don't even know what the ordering is going to be, but those are like a real first step in my mind of a real software defined product that I'm like, oh, okay, this begins to feel like, this is how AI and hardware should actually be integrated. So without giving away too much of the farm, what sort of things are we talking about for the Cyberlandr, the ability of it?
Yeah, we wanted it to feel so natural that it didn't feel like technology. And, we have customers who have no interest in technology, are almost
Right.
Luddites, right?
Right.
And so we have, as you've met, somebody on our team who has a doctorate in uh, not AI, but how humans interface with AI and the human aspects of AI.
Yep.
Who does that, you know? And she's awesome, and she's
Yeah.
helping
Amazing.
us
Yeah.
make sure the technology stays human and
Right.
that people will like it. But, you know, one example we've used in the past is, you know, say you're out camping and you decide you want to go take a swim in the lake.
Right.
So you go into the Cyberlandr and there's 7 windows. You don't want to run around and close blinds or whatever else on 7
Right.
windows. So you just
Right.
say, hey, Lander, give me some privacy. And
Right.
all the windows go opaque so you can change your clothes. The lights automatically come up to compensate for less light coming through the windows.
Right.
And then when you're done, you say end privacy and you can go back out and everything's back to normal. And we want technology at that level so it's simple and out of the way, so you don't even realize that it's technology. It's just
Right.
helping you get the
Right.
things you want to do done.
Yeah, and one of the beauties of the more modern sort of AI or large language model based AI is, of course, you don't have to remember the magic phrases. When you started talking, I was thinking about the old VCRs and remember, like originally there were dip switches, but then you had programming manuals and stuff, and even old like 1980s Casio watches. Uh,
Mhm.
When you get better technology, it becomes easier and easier to deal with, not more and more complicated. That's the goal of this. So
Mhm.
rather than having to remember, like, because there, you know, sometimes with like specific things, you can say, hey, XYZ. And if you say it exactly right, it'll do it. But if you say one word out of order or something, but here in this case, maybe you could say, hey, Lander, there's a lot of windows open right now and I want to change into my swimsuit to go swimming. And it's like smart enough to go like, oh, that means
Yeah.
privacy. So, you know,
Mhm.
you don't have to have that like magic phrase or something. You could
Right.
conversationally talk to it,
Yeah.
which is genius. That's really lovely.
Yeah.
Uh,
And ask it things like, what's the weather going to be like today? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
what time is the
exactly.
sunset where we are today? Because you may have just traveled for 8 hours and you're in
Right.
a different time
Yeah.
zone.
And
So
oddly enough, that's something I ask a lot because I want to know when the sunset is. But you know, regardless of whether it's because you want to go walk the dogs before sunset or because you want to catch the sunset, it's a nice thing to know. And the weather, yeah, it could be like you could even say like, hey, what do I need to wear today? You get up, you've been asleep all night, and it's like, well,
mhm.
is it frosty outside and 30 degrees, or is it, you know, reasonably nice and 60 or something? You don't
Yeah.
know. So yeah,
Yeah, and the possibilities are basically endless. I mean, with
right,
the surround view video that we have, if a
right,
bear walks into the camp, it can warn you, there's a bear
right.
outside, don't leave. And
Best to stay indoors right now.
yeah,
So,
which
yeah,
that's going to be a pretty rare event, but
right,
it's nice to have that warning before you walk out and
right.
get a surprise.
Yeah. Like, and then of course there's a television in there, so you can interact with it that way as
Yeah,
well. And
yeah.
approximately how many cameras? Without, again, you don't have to be exact, but are we talking about like 2 cameras, 4 cameras,
So
8 cameras?
there will be 4 on the outside
Okay.
that will stitch together to create a surround view. That's one of the features that everybody asks Tesla for, and because of the
Right.
way they position their cameras, it's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but for our purposes, it's pretty easy to do that, and
Yeah.
we want that 360-degree view so that you don't have to look at 4 different cameras and try and have your
Right.
brain figure out where they fit together, right?
Right. Right.
So we'll have 4 on the outside to keep a 360-degree view. And that,
Cool.
of course, is your security system.
Right.
So you can sleep at night knowing it's keeping an eye out for you. If somebody enters the campground, it can turn on the exterior lighting. As they get closer, it can turn to
Right.
yellow or flash. If they get too close, it could go to red,
Right.
kind of
Right.
thing, and then wake you up.
Yeah.
So lots of good possibilities with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice actually. That's something that I'm sure will make my wife very happy because you know, she gets nervous about that stuff, but it's like, no, it knows. And of course, modern cameras not only can see better than us in dark environments, but often can see infrared too, into the near infrared. So you get a lot of they can see, even if it's pitch dark, you could see if a bear or something was wandering through your campground. And yeah, know that now is not the time to go outside and enjoy the stars. Just wait a few
Yeah,
minutes till it wanders off.
yeah, well, we found that in some of the work we did for a Department of Transportation, where we needed
Right.
to see inside the cars to count the number of people in the HOV lane.
Right.
And there would be images that we as humans could not tell if there were people in there or not. but the AI outside the visible range was able to very clearly determine it, and we could boost up the image, enlarge it, and enhance it. Then we could tell there was a person in there, but the AI could do it very quickly and easily.
Yeah. 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 I remember you telling me about that, where you were like, oh, it's getting it wrong. And it thinks that there's two people in the car when there's only one. So that person should have gotten a ticket. And you zoom and enhance enough times. It's like, oh, no, there was another person. They were just very, very, blending in with the background in the dark. So yeah, it's very cool. What technology can do now. The cameras are significantly better than human eyes if you use them properly. So
yeah, and they don't get tired and they don't blink.
Yeah.
And they don't get distracted. So
Right.
all those are very good for security reasons.
Right. Yeah. And then, so what sort of other things can you imagine, even if it's not like a version 1? Again, an advantage of a software-defined vehicle is that the hardware is there, but you could be like, oh, this is a great new feature we could add. You just put it in the software, QA test it, and out it goes to how
there are updates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's really what we wanted to do from the beginning. Was we wanted to create an RV worthy of the Tesla, right? Which means you got to have over-the-air updates. You need to have good software that gets upgraded over time, because currently, if you leave your modern pickup and you walk back to your camper, it's like going back in time 50 years. The technology in that camper is not great. And,
right.
Yeah,
I mean, down to the point of like physical switches and things you have to throw to turn on the.
Some of them even have radios with knobs in them, which I guess if you like that, that's great. But we hope to do better than that.
Yeah, it's not what we're talking about here. So so that's a really cool thing that you can add new features over time if just because the customers will tell you. That's the beauty of it. So like once it gets out into the wild and you have a bunch of customers saying, hey, what about this feature? You're like, oh yeah, that's a good feature. And you could just add it.
Yeah, things like, hey, I'm in Zion National Park. Tell me about Zion's National Park.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so there are lots of good possibilities for the future.
Right. Yeah, or even like and also the ability of it maybe over time to get to know you as a customer, right? So it's like if I got to Zion National Park versus a 25-year-old Olympic runner versus somebody who is maybe older and not in as good a shape, that you could say like, what would be some good things for me to do today? And it could orient that. It could say like, well, you go up Angel's Landing, you maybe like do this, and you can go find this nice little spot where you can sit and look at things, so that different ability levels and stuff like that. Yeah,
definitely. Yep.
Okay. Very, very cool. So let's see what so when you say 0 to 1, going back to this, are you thinking like 0 to 1 as the software, as the hardware, as the integration of the two of them, all of the above? Like where is that sort of moving from 0 to 1?
Well, within the RV space, it's across all of that, really, right?
Okay.
The full integration of the compute hardware in the vehicle instead of an add-on, right? Full integration of the software with the actual product instead of something generic and been adapted. 0 to 1 is the creation of the first RV that's really garageable. A lot of people live in HOAs where they're not allowed to have an RV parked on the side of their house. But you know what, if you can just hit the button, store it, and back it into your garage, they can't complain about that. So you save yourself a couple $100s a month in RV parking fees. And so lots of possibilities that way. So, being the first truly aerodynamic RV, something that carries the weight so low that you can take it off-road into pretty, treacherous spaces, and then you don't have to live in a tent. Once you get there, you hit the button and presto, you're in the lap. So
that's the nice way to camp. I like that. When I was young, I thought sleeping in a sleeping bag under the stars.
That was awesome when you were young.
Now I'm like, no, I actually want my hot coffee in the morning, on the induction. So there we go. Yeah. And of course, also there's the 0 to 1 aspect of integrating software into a product like this, which I mean, I guess there are, it's got to be one of the first, if not the first, to do it at that level. I mean, to think about it from the get-go as something that is software defined. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, that's really what distinguishes the Teslas from every other vehicle out there today, right? that integration. It's not this team did this and threw it over the wall to this other team who threw it all over the wall to the next team, right? It's everybody working together to build the product and trying to take all the different aspects, the pluses and minuses of a decision into account from the very beginning.
Right.
And so that's what we're trying to do as well. All the teams work together, you know. We don't have design and engineering and quality assurance. It's design, engineering, quality assurance, one team, right? Everybody has to work together to make it work. So it's a very different way to make a product. It's clearly the way Tesla does it. I think there's some great benefits to doing that. And so that's the way we're doing it as well.
That's excellent. Yeah, and I would say your team, from the folks, I haven't met all of them, of course, but I've met several of them, and they're a really, really great team. Like a lot of very talented people in different areas, but everybody seems to talk to each other and solve problems together. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so nice to work on an A team, you know, where everybody is just top notch and working really hard. I had a professor in college. She used to say, A quality team members hire A quality team members who hire A quality team members. Everybody likes working together, right?
Right.
But B quality team members hire C quality team members so they don't show them up, and the C quality hire D quality so they don't get shown up. And then once the D quality people hire somebody, the whole company is effed. And so,
well, there you
go. So we're trying to avoid that. We're blessed to have a really good team and people that really enjoy working hard, working together, and doing new things and doing hard things. You know, none of this is easy, and you know they're in it. They love it. They love the challenges.
Yeah. And I've gotten to see some of that process going on and the thinking, you know, from the outside, of course, but the just going like beating your head against the wall, going like, how are we going to solve this problem? And then going like, oh, you know, that's the solution. And that's in some senses, that's like my favorite thing, like as a person, no matter whether it's a Cyberlandr or anything else, but it's that moment of inspiration where you're like, that's the way to go. And then of course there's the 99% where you actually have to implement it and make it work. But you know. So
that's part of it. So and I'm glad you've been able to spend enough time with members of the team to get a feel for that.
Yeah. No, that's a great team, and I have spent more time with the software part of things than the hardware part, but I'm sure at some point I will get to spend time with, exactly. Yeah, I for one cannot wait to get a chance to get in one of these, you know, early prototypes or something and test it out. So that's going to be awesome. Anything else for us, Lance?
Let's think. Is there anything else we can share right now? Nothing's coming to mind right off. If we do, we'll make another video.
That's fine.
But I guess we could say, you know, we're working on the new prototype now, and we're looking at, you know, early next year, probably March, April timeframe to unveil it. And so we're getting closer, and I think it'll be pretty exciting. We should have those patents in place by then, and the prototype ready to start showing. We won't show everything then. We'll still save some things for the official product unveil a little later. But I think it will finally let people see what we've been working so hard on for the last couple of years, and I think they're going to like it.
Yeah, I think people are going to be very impressed by this. And I think it really, you know, you always, your North Star was to be able to be like, we need to be as good of a product in our category as Tesla is in their category. And that's a very high bar to match, but I really think you've done it. It's very impressive.
You know, we had, part of our job was super easy. We just had to be better than the RV industry. Well, that's not so hard because most of the RV industry is pretty bad. At the same time, we've got to try and be worthy of a Tesla, right? And that's a pretty high bar. Tesla's not perfect, but they've set a really high bar. They've really set the standard in everything they've made so far. Right. You know, whatever product category they've entered, they've set the new bar, and so we're trying to do the same.
Yep. So I guess I should say it's pretty simple. It's cyberlandr.com is the web address, and of course I'll leave that in the description if you're interested in pre-ordering, if you're interested in just finding out more information, and of course, obviously, if you're interested in investing too, that is also an option that is open. So yeah.
Cyberlandr.com, but don't put in the last E.
That's right, Cyberlandr, DR. So there we go. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Lance. I really do appreciate it, and I,
Thanks,
for
John.
one, am very excited about the future. I think I can't wait to actually get into one of these things because I've seen all the pieces, and I just can't wait for
Yeah,
it to
I
come
can't
together.
wait to have you experience it.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. Okay, and in the
Okay.
meantime, I had a blast talking to you, so thank you so much. And of course, everybody, have a great day, and we will see you in the next video. Bye bye.